allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the meeting of September 27th. Roll call, please. Gross.
Here.
Possession.
Here.
Giannotti.
Here.
Terry.
Here.
Stacy.
Here.
Kraus.
Here.
In your packet, you have the minutes of the last meeting. If there are no changes, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Roll call. Gross.
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
There is no clerk's report this month.
I actually have one thing that I just don't have it in writing. Since the village board has been so involved in these community events, and you've all been working, at these events, do the village board members want to get polo shirts with the village logo on them to wear to these events, like village staff wears?
I've been asking for that for years, so yes.
So,
Tired of the fire department having all the nice polos and pullovers and everything. I think we can get a shirt.
do you want to go with a certain color?
Oh, I didn't think that far.
Well,
We did, orange,
Yeah, it's gotta be orange.
orange.
because the 4th of July is a red, and then when trustees are at their events, they would be in orange, so if the guy's in orange, with the exception of George over there.
I don't know if
You're a trustee, you can go to that person for that event,
Can it be the breathable kind, not just got, moisture wick or whatever they call it?
Yeah, we can look at the different options. If you guys can email me your sizes, then I can start that. I don't know when we can get it, because we're way behind, and all of these suppliers are having trouble getting things, so it depends on what I can get. That's it.
Alrighty. Anyone in the audience wish to address the board? Okay, tonight we are going to appoint a code compliance officer. The village was approached by a retired resident that expressed an interest in the code enforcement position. The chief and administrator interviewed the candidate after an application was received and wished to recommend him for the position. Our current code enforcement officer will no longer be working in that position. This person has been voluntarily training, and he will be ready to go live by October 1st. He'll handle special projects for the police department as assigned by the chief. The officer will wear a different uniform, be in an unmarked vehicle, and he will work flexible daytime hours per his agreement with the chief, but would average about 17 hours per week. And that is Dave Harrison, who is here tonight. So if someone would make a motion to appoint Dave Harrison as our code compliance officer.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call?
Kraus.
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Giannotti.
Yes.
Possession.
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes.
Alrighty, that's all I have. And finance and administration, trustee reports.
Update on the $254,000 loan for the splash pad. The treasurer has asked that we wait until the next meeting on Tuesday the 13th to formally consider a loan offer. We're trying to obtain 3 formal offers before drafting the loan agreement and an ordinance. The treasurer will consult with the finance chair on the offers prior to having the attorney draft the necessary paperwork. So,
Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation Committee, trustee Terry.
Yes, just a splash pad update. Since the change of the order was under $5,000, and there was a need to push for the project along so we can actually start the construction before the first frost line. The village administrator approved $2,878 change in order for the new walkway, and this charge order was enclosed. This was a discussion at the last meeting, and the superintendent thought it would be only around 1,000, but the walk came to be 42 feet in length to meet the 2% slope required. Since we came in under budget on the remaining quiet zone costs in the budget, we will use some of those funds.
Is that it?
That's all I have. Yes.
Okay. Planning, Building and Zoning Committee, trustee Stacy.
Yes, Mayor. Administrative hearing to appeal the sprinkling requirements for the building at 1610 Bull Street has been scheduled for Planning and Zoning Commission for this meeting coming Wednesday night. This will not come to the village board since the ordinance reads that the Planning and Zoning Commission has the final say on these matters. And that's all I have.
Okay. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Kraus.
Thank you, Mayor. The full-time officer, you touched on this a little, we have a part-time officer to be starting officially October 1st, and that was just due to scheduling. The part-time officer hiring status, we are working on getting one or two interviews scheduled for this week. Actually, I think you said the one couldn't, correct?
One can make it through.
Okay, so we'll do one this week and hopefully see if we can get another one in next week. So the one part-time we have is going full-time, so the chief has said we have a need for some more people to help. So hopefully next meeting we'll have a recommendation to the board, or not. Police station feasibility study. We had a public safety committee meeting was held at 6 p.m. Before this meeting to review the initial comments from the architect. So we basically presented with five options. We felt that the two most, the two most realistic options, we're gonna get a little more information from. It's not to say the other three can't be considered still. But we're gonna get some costs and some numbers to see where we'd be at for that. But right now, we narrowed it down to the two options that we think are the most realistic. And then if we have something further, we will bring that to the board. Any questions on that?
What are the two options? What are some of the options?
Well, we obviously looked at new or existing, is the two biggest things. But without, what does it say about, we'd have to go into executive session to discuss some of the options, because it
The
requires.
options involve purchasing property, so until we have more specifics to present to the board under acquisition of land in a closed session, we don't really want to be too public as to what those options are.
Okay, that makes sense. Is the architect's gonna do a presentation for the entire board?
I think he can when he has enough information. Right now, we don't know what these prices are. He wanted some information, some input from the committee before he started hammering down those numbers. So now he's going to find out what these properties are gonna be sold for. Then we can have a frank discussion on total cost.
There was there was square footage issues, but information. There was a big gap in information that the architect needed today to continue anything further. So that's what a lot of it was, just, asking questions to see, like needs, wants, and some of the things like that.
And you can talk to the public safety chairman or myself or Joe after this meeting to get more information. And unfortunately, in public, when we're talking about acquisition of land, we can't be too specific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get it.
And then the police chaplain program, chief, you want to elaborate?
Sure. I'll take that down, so you do. President Meyer and members of the village board, it's my pleasure to advise you that we have 3 pastors in town that would like to be chaplains with the police department. We have Ron Rock from Zion, who is already a chaplain, but we plan to use our chaplains a little bit different now. Brian Dennard from the Faith Church, and then we have Mike Stein from St. Paul's. I met with Mike, but he's a little busy now after the tragedy. We're not, sit back and wait before I re-engage with him. But what we'd like to do with the chaplain program is to not only have them minister to our citizens, but to our police officers. I've been very involved in the chaplain program in 2 different police departments, including the Illinois State Police. And what the chaplain program does, it helps hone an officer's moral compass. In some cases, in my experience, it actually helps develop a moral compass in some officers. So it's nothing but good for the community. We plan to have riding with the officers, being with us at community events in uniform, plan to put them in uniform. They'll have crosses on their lapel, not stars like I have. But I think it's nothing but good for the community.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Consider a motion authorizing the purchase of network protection equipment for the police department in the amount of $3,643.44. The village hall site has been upgraded, but the police department site does not have the redundancy it needs to keep the Wi-Fi network and phone system up and running during power failures or glitches in the wireless network. The phone system is actually going out about twice per week. Installation of this equipment should greatly reduce the frequency of outages at the station. So I'd like to make the motion authorizing the purchase of network protection equipment for the police department in the amount of $3,643.44.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second, discussion? Roll call?
Caprows,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes. Consider a motion authorizing the purchase of a chain of evidence software package in the amount of $5,249. This new program and audit of the evidence locker will be explained here. It is required by law that these audits be performed to preserve the integrity of the chain of evidence. Please see the enclosed proposal. Chief, do you want to elaborate on that a little?
Sure. So our evidence vault has not been audited in approximately 29 years. So there's a lot of things in it that should have been disposed of years ago. Our evidence vault is of adequate size, but I put the last piece of evidence in there 2 weeks ago. And we're going to fill the last bin up, so we don't have any more room in there. We have to audit the vault. And when we audit it, we'll now have an automated system. We're now using the ledger system, is what I used in the 80s and 90s. So we're trying to move this to an automated system.
So I'd like to make the motion authorizing the purchase of a chain of evidence software package in the amount of $5,249.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second, discussion? Roll call?
Kraus,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Caprows,
Yes.
Consider a motion authorizing the lease purchase of 5 new in-car video systems for patrol vehicles for $8,133 the first year and $9,183 for the next 4 years. The chief and administrator have identified $20,300 in the budget for new equipment, $10,300 in the current budget, $10,000 in asset forfeiture from the sale of Humvees. The above items in this agenda item can be used to fund these projects. The chief has identified this project as a very urgent need for the safety of officers and those they come in contact with. These systems can also add body cameras down the road when we are ready for that conversion. Please see the proposal. All these projects can be completed within the existing budget, but for future years of funding will be required for this project. So I'd like to go ahead and make that motion authorizing the lease purchase of 5 new in-car video systems for patrol vehicles for $8,133 in the first year and $9,183 for the next 4 years.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second, discussion?
Is that 9183 per year or? total
Per year.
for- Per year.
Is that something we need to do now, or is that the budget for the future years?
I would, that's a question for Bob. I think you just need to make
Yeah.
the motion for the 8133, knowing that we're gonna have to budget the 9183.
That's correct, this is a
Future.
lease purchase, so if you decide you don't want them.
So we don't, but we don't need the motion for the 9183 for the.
No, we're
Just the
putting you on notice that it's probably gonna be a 4-year.
But that doesn't need to be in the motion, that's the
No.
question.
So I'll amend my motion, just for the $8,133 for the first year.
Okay, amended, but did you want to amend your second?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question on that then, chief. What is the proposal call for the contract? Do we have to sign it for 4 years?
I don't know.
What they're saying is, all we gotta do is fund the first year, while we worry about the next 4, or 3, I get that, but what does the contract say? We obligate ourselves for 4
Give me
years?
a minute, I'll look, but I have.
Yeah. And then, Joe, you had a question about,
Yeah, I thought we
One
had
car.
6, I thought we had 6 patrol cars. And there's only 5.
Well, I can answer that. So we're gonna try to piece together 1 or 2 of the cameras that we're not returning and put them in Tom Beck's car, who's at the high school, because he only uses that in Christmas break and in the summers. And we'll have it for our additional car. We'll save the two best units. One is actually still under warranty, one of the units we have right now. So we'll save the two best units and put them in the other car.
Are they all done through digital ally?
They're all digital analyzed.
So we're adding 5, we're gonna have 7 total, once we get to 5. And just say I'll say the body camera's in here too. I don't know if everyone remembers, that is a state law that for us, because our population will go into effect in 3 years, so that's when we can have it.
And in 3 years, they're gonna give us body cameras for free. That's in the contract as well, 5 of them, so we won't have to buy them when we need them by the state law. Well, it's not free, I guess, we're paying for it.
And that's if we sign up to the 5-year, that's if we sign the 5-year agreement?
Yeah, this is a 60-month subscription plan.
That's what I thought. That's why I think we worded it the way we did.
So we're back to our original motion.
Yeah, so how is that, Bob? I mean, we're signing a contract, so we do need all this money, correct?
Correct. This board has to bind us to future years of 8133. Similar to a lease purchase of a vehicle, squad car, same thing.
So do I need to amend my amendment to the original?
Can go back to the original motion, original second. All right, any more discussion? Roll call.
Caprows,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes. And we'll end on that. Thank you.
Public Works Committee, trustee Giannotti.
The Gould Street water main project update.
Oh, boy. Okay, the contractors were asked by, before the bid on the project, were asked by DCO to submit what they call a BEP, which is a minority quota subcontractor commitment of 20%. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Matt, because you know just as much as I do about this. 2 of the 4 said they couldn't, so they withdrew their bids. The 2 that remained, Aries and Brandt, said they could, but they have been unable to find the 20% minority contractors because of the technical nature of the work. So they have submitted a BEP, and now it has to go to the Fairness Committee or something?
Yep.
What is it called? Equity Committee?
Yeah, something like
And
that.
this Equity Committee is going to review the 2 bids and decide which one is valid. Now, we have advised DCO and the Equity Committee that we've already awarded the bid to Brandt subject to DCO's approval. So if they pick Aries, they better have a good reason why we're spending another $280,000 on a higher bid. And that's where we're at. And they need 30 days,
Yeah, up to, yeah.
but the engineer says we're good because our bid gave us 120 days to award. So we're probably in day 30 or day 45 of that 120 now. But this is state government at its best, working for you.
Can they say neither one are valid, or do they have to pick one?
They can say rebid the project.
How come they didn't have this figured in when they had their bid? This had to have been in the agreements and in the specs, correct?
We are
The requirements?
We are all in virgin territory when it comes to this new DCO grant project.
But
The rules are being made as we move along.
No, but participation requirements, is this a drop the ball on the engineer's part?
I would say it is, yes.
Did the engineers know about this and not notify the bidders?
That I
Or
don't
put
know.
it in the request? Or in the formal bid documents?
So you're asking if it was in the specs, the bidding specs?
In the bid documents?
It doesn't sound like it. They were notified afterwards.
That's correct.
After the bids were opened here that morning, they were notified that, something was missed.
The BEP was not.
So now the state is trying to work with the contractors to get this worked out for us to be able to keep that grant. It's possible that they're gonna deny both, and we'll be back to bid, but there's no one out there that's feeling comfortable with being able to bid it with those parameters within the bid documents.
That's correct.
We got the lead service line line removal program update, Superintendent Connor.
Yeah, I talked with Chad Brandt this morning just to get an update for the meeting. They've been inside of 338 structures. Out of those, only 53 have been lead. It's nowhere near what they thought it was going to be. They're still concentrating on the west area of the railroad tracks, thinking that that's going to be the highest concentration of lead lines. They have found a few sporadic areas up along Penfield Street, Indiana Avenue over by the Princess area, things of that nature. But the areas that they haven't been yet, like north of Miller Street, we're fairly confident that they're not going to find a lot of lead lines or any in that area. So they're looking at starting drilling these 53 that they found so far within the next 2 to 3 weeks. They do have their supplies on order, but supply and demand is not coinciding with projects lately. So they're hoping, but that's where they're at with the project. So they are working Monday through Friday, some Saturdays, some Sundays, knocking on doors, just trying to get people that are, at work in order to try to get into their basements to do these site inspections. So they're trying.
Okay. Dixie Highway Water Main Project is completely designed and we are awaiting an IDOT permit and obtaining 2 easements. We will not go to bid until we have the Gould Street Water Main Project awarded and we know what funding we have.
That's correct. We also have a detour problem now too. They want us to use Church Road as a detour, even though it's stone past Ashland Avenue, out west out there, it's stone. So we got a lot of work to do on a detour, because we have to close Indiana Avenue for a connection.
Which I think their estimate's very high. At 6 to 8 weeks, what's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to leave it closed? But, yeah. The reason that they wanted to go with Church Road is because of the stoplight, just to have better flow or control of the traffic crossing Route 1. Our original detour was using County Line, and obviously everybody is aware of the situation that typically happens there every other day with accidents there. So IDOT and county are both hesitant on using that intersection as part of our detour.
And we've got the Penfield STP project update. We are now slated for a January 21st bid opening, and many things are happening behind the scenes to get this project to bid. Some easements have to be signed off and permits required. We are now on a hard clock.
It's good to be on a hard clock because it's putting pressure on them to get things done at this point.
So, status of the salt supply for the 2021-2022 winter season. Superintendent Connor will explain the dilemma we are facing and the options we have to get through this year. Luckily, we have 600 tons in storage, which amounts to about half of a normal winter.
So Cargill has had the state bid for the last how many years, Bob? This year, the Arkansas plant was forced to be closed due to safety reasons, the salt mines in Arkansas. So Cargill had to withdraw all of their contracts through the state. So nobody in the state of Illinois right now that was using their state bid process has a contract with anybody for salt delivery. They were going back out to bid. They went back out 2 weeks ago, didn't get any bids. They went back out this past Friday. They were supposed to open. We didn't hear anything today. I do have a backup. I talked to a company out of Romeoville. They could guarantee us salt, but it's going to be at a lot higher rates. Last year, what were we paying? About 64 a ton.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling us 95 to 100 a ton. So hopefully the state comes through. That's kind of where we're at right now. So
And everybody's in the same boat.
Yep. I've been emailing the guy from the state every once a week, just trying to get an update out of him, just so, because we need to do something, we need to lock ourselves in somewhere, one way or another, and they keep stringing us along. Oh, we're having bid date today, and then we don't hear anything. So we're trying.
Okay, then we've got leaf pickup beginning soon, even though it's still very warm. The leaves are sure to fall. Superintendent Connor, update on estimated date of pickup.
Typically mid-October. The leaves kind of tell us when we're doing what. So they're all very green still. I know they're saying now that the month of October is supposed to remain very warm. So we just gotta kind of play it by that. But we do have our leaf machines out and in being serviced right now, so that way we're ready to roll. So.
Okay. Water billing register is enclosed for review. The superintendent can report on some leaks that have been detected by our equipment in the last 2 months and the repairs that have been made.
We've had 2 breaks, one on Melrose and one on Catalpa north of Miller within the last 3 weeks. We've made 3 other separate repairs on leaks that we believe have been leaking for quite a while. The main one of those would be Spring Cove and Trailside. We found an old service saddle that did not have a service line on it. We're thinking possibly a chlorination whip or something when the subdivision first went in, but the weld around the top of the saddle actually ripped off somehow, some way. That one had been leaking for a while. I found that one roughly a month ago when I was spraying the weeds around well 5. The water was coming over the embankment. It's traveling that far, so it's getting in the storm system and making its way all the way over there. So another one was a abandoned service on Trailside. That the east side of Trailside was plotted for duplexes or cottage-style homes. At some point it was changed to single family, but there are still an extra service line running to each lot, and we're starting to come across what we were in Nantucket Cove, where those services that aren't being used are getting pinholes or anything from a pinhole up to a pencil size or pencil, eraser sized hole. That one we just dug down. Actually, I had M&J Underground come out. They hydro excavated that one for us because the resident was very adamant about not losing her tree out front. So we potholed a couple areas around it and got enough that we just went down and shut the corp off at the main instead of digging up the road and causing more, cost to us. So, and then they actually just left at 6:30. They were just working on one on Pasadena. That one was a 1 foot long crack. Could have been leaking for a couple days to a couple years. We don't know, but it definitely surfaced today around lunchtime. The resident called the village hall. So we've seen major changes in our well numbers. We've seen roughly 100,000 gallons per day difference from fixing some of these. So we should, knock on wood, we should see some significant changes in our pump to build ratios if we stop having breaks. I mean, that's going to always throw it off, but we should start seeing. We can definitely see longer run times in our gaps between our run times, I guess, on our SCADA trends. So things are definitely changing within the SCADA or within the water system. So.
Now you said Simpson came out to help you locate these.
Yeah.
Leaks that you had, but they couldn't find them because they're on plastic.
Yeah, Simpson's very good at leak detecting. He was very honest with us, and right when he got here, he said, I had him locate 4 areas. He said right off the bat that he didn't feel confident that he was going to be able to find one of them. Plastic main just does not carry the harmonic tones that a steel or ductile main will, and he said if the valve isn't within 3 feet of the actual leak, he said it's slim to none that you're going to find it. So that one on Trailside in Spring Cove, he did hit that one, but we're thinking now that it's because it was blowing through the torn saddle, which is metal, so he could have been hearing a different tone through there. So yeah.
So we're on our own on plastic pipe. That's one of the.
Basically,
One of the
yeah.
small negatives
Now,
we have.
our leak detection equipment's a little different than theirs. They have to have a point A and a point B, and then they listen between. Ours, we have headphones. We just set our leak detector on the ground. We move it we try to follow the main down the road, and so we get a top noise level, whatever you want to call it, that we can sometimes hear. So.
Sewer Department monthly report is enclosed for your review. And then we need to consider a resolution endorsing an application for Safe Routes to School SRTS funds for the closing of gaps in public sidewalks throughout the village. This is a reapplication from last year where we were rejected due to the volume of applications received. The project scores well, but there were too many projects in the hopper last year. We must continue to reapply until our project is funded. The good news is the program has changed to accommodate more applications. The bad news is that the total grant amount has been reduced. Now the program has changed from 100% grant with a maximum of $750,000 to a 20% local match maximum of $250,000. Our engineers estimate of probable cost is $500,330. So the village would have to fund 50% of this project, or $250,000. We have 36 months to complete the project from the date of grant agreement. We can reduce the scope of the project at the appropriate time to $300,000, which would make our local match $50,000. But we decided to go for the entire sidewalk program and worry about paring it down later. Bids could also come in under the engineer's estimate. You got any motion for that?
Yeah, for resolution number 2021-12.
Okay, consider a resolution 2021
2021-12.
12, endorsing an application for the Safe Route to Schools funds for the closing of gaps in public sidewalks throughout the village.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion?
So I actually had a question on this one. So the red here obviously indicates where sidewalks would be infilled. Now, of course, there's a lot of places that probably don't have sidewalks that aren't on here. What's the criteria for which places are included versus not?
Boy, I'm trying to remember from 2 years ago,
So,
how much we did this.
I remember. So the idea was an infill, where, this was an issue where you had primarily, a large majority of this was half-built subdivisions, where kids would have sidewalk to go on, and then it just ends at an empty lot. And that's where they're going in the road then, and going back on. I understand there's other areas of town that don't have sidewalks, but they've never had sidewalks.
Well, that's not
There's
right,
not
yeah.
like, sidewalk that starts, stops.
I'm more kind of interested in like, well, like say, in like, say First Street over here, like kind of behind McDonald's. Like I noticed that doesn't have anything on there. Now there's like almost no houses on that street, but from just driving around town around school time, that's where I see tons of kids walking back and forth to the junior high. So I mean, this probably fills in those paths, but I don't know if it necessarily hits the paths that the kids take. Because they're probably gonna go a certain route based on what's the most expedient route for them, you know, what I'm just thinking. I don't know if there's any flexibility at this time.
These were also based, if I recall, on a number of complaints we received from residents. We had a big gap on Woodward Street, center block Woodward Street there. There is no sidewalk linking Hodges to Miller on either side of the road, so we are going to put a sidewalk in there. There was a piece of Catalpa Street that didn't have a sidewalk. And I know on Pine Lane up here, there were a lot of people complaining that Pine Street didn't have a sidewalk that went all the way through. I don't recall if we ever got any complaints about First Street not having a sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I'm 100% in support of the idea in general. The fur one got me because, people tend to really drive down that street because it's a long stretch and there's no houses on it. And I see a lot of junior high kids walking back and forth on that one. So if there was, I don't know if there's options to
Add to it,
or not, but I think that, at least anecdotally, it seems like that would be a good addition from a usability standpoint.
The problem with Fur is you don't have houses there.
Right.
So there
Just
isn't
the
like
two.
a beginning and end with a gap, there's only two houses, I
Right.
think, down at the end. And it's future construction if something should happen, so then all that stuff gets ripped up.
Gets ripped
I mean,
out.
that's one where there's no houses at all.
Yeah,
well, I think the other
That's
thing,
probably where,
yeah, just looking at the map, we probably figured the kids have an option of going down Keenan, and if we pick up these gaps in phase one of Prairie Crossings there, they can make it on a sidewalk all the way to the junior high, if they decide to walk down Keenan and go in through the original Prairie Crossing subdivision, because we're getting all those gaps.
yeah,
We couldn't get all the gaps, there's no way we could afford to get
Sure.
all the gaps. So what we were trying to do is connect them so the kids can get to the school safely. So what we'd have to do is advise them, please use Keenan and walk through the Prairie Crossing subdivision and get to school. Might not be the shortest, but it gets you on the sidewalk.
So, to go along with what Ben was saying as well, so like, I know like Pine Street and Aspen I'm very familiar with, so I know like Aspen, neither side of the street has a completed sidewalk that runs all the way through. But I know on Pine Street, there's only one section on the south side of that street that doesn't have sidewalks. So are we filling in both the north and south sides of those streets, or are we only gonna fill in the north side or the south side, depending on which is the least amount of sidewalk to fill? Like, is that like something that this covers, or
Yeah,
does
this
it do the
doesn't-
whole street?
I
both
wanted,
sides?
if I recall, again, we planned this a couple of years ago, I think it was both sides, wasn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is that like an option where if we did like the north side or the south side of those streets,
If
and
we
we
had,
could move
if
those
we had a truck,
sections?
Joe, if we only got to 250 and we could
Yeah.
afford the other 250, we'd probably have to make some decisions.
So stuff like that, or I mean, would that, like an option, like with what Ben's saying, like with First Street, would that be an option where we could say, oh, we'll do the north sides of these two streets, or do the north side of one and the south side of the other, and then move the north and south side of the and use it somewhere else? Is that an option, or do we have to have the exact sections we're using it for laid out?
So, I believe this is done based on footages, right?
Okay.
So when you look at the thing that's enclosed,
Yeah,
it's all footage.
yeah, it's the same, sidewalks the
So,
same.
at the end of the day, you're gonna get your bid,
Yeah,
they're gonna give you a price, the mobility charges aren't gonna be there because it's all within town.
yeah.
At the end of the day, you're gonna get your price, wait till your price comes in, this and that. And then, I mean, you guys are newer on the board versus when it was done, I mean, feel free, give some
Ideas.
input and
Yeah.
you'll
Oh, yeah.
figure out how much footage of sidewalk you can afford and go from there.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it's like, okay, this is what we approved with the grant, and we
No.
can't move it to, like you're saying, the footage is the same, the sidewalk width is the same.
There may be some
Could be
small
worse.
restrictions on it, because with the safe routes to school, it had to be within a certain amount of feet or something from a school. Now,
Okay.
having the school, 3 separate schools in kind of
Yeah.
different general areas,
Absolutely.
it covers a bigger area.
Okay,
So, but like over by your house, Ben, the village, if I remember correctly, put in the sidewalk from
Yeah,
Cardinal,
the curve on.
Blue Heron, Bald Eagle, all that, just for the reason that you're saying, because the kids used to walk that area. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're definitely familiar with that area with the kids, so.
okay.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I guess, if it comes to fruition, we can, who knows, maybe houses have been built at that point, and
Mhm.
maybe the map looks a little different anyways.
If we get the grant, we go to phase 2 design, we can hammer it down a lot more specific as to where the sidewalks are going. Right now, all I got knows is this map here.
Yeah,
Sounds
And
good.
they don't know one street from another.
okay.
As long as they don't do that any requirements.
That's, yes.
Okay. Consider my, address.
All right, any more discussion? Roll call.
Kraus,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Caprows.
Yes. Can I just say one thing, if this goes to the next phase, can we get better maps when this comes around? I can't really tell that at the same time here.
Yes, and I think that might be done on purpose too, so you can't work.
I know, that's what I'm asking.
Okay. And consider an engineering services agreement with Baxter and Woodman in the amount of $4,000 using MFT funds to design the SRTS sidewalk project and submit the amended application. So I'm gonna make a motion to consider the engineering services of Baxter and Woodman in the amount of $4,000 using MFT funds to design the SRTS sidewalk project and submit the amended application.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second this one too.
There's a motion and a second, discussion? Roll call.
Caprows,
Yes.
Possession,
Yes.
Giannotti,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Stacy,
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
And that concludes my report.
Economic Development and Community Relations Committee, trustee session.
Alright, I'm almost sad because it'll be like the last time I get to talk this item. Results of the Beecher wastewater treatment plant open house held on August 28th. It seems like a long time ago, but this is the first committee report since then. We had about 80 attendees total, and it was very hot, this is true. I will say, I thought like it was a pretty good turnout for a wastewater treatment plant opening. And it was, I thought, very informative to be able to walk through with some experts and see kind of the equipment behind it. So, I don't know. Any comments on that one?
Good time was had by all.
Yeah. Okay, next up, fall newsletter deadline approaching fast. October 1st is the deadline for articles, and the newsletter will be mailed the week of October 12th.
The clerk has something to add on this topic.
I wanted to report that over the weekend, I got an email from the township that said that they aren't gonna do a fall newsletter this time. We sell ads for our newsletter based on the distribution area for the village and the township because they provide a bigger audience for our ads. So we charge a price based on that. If our readers, or these newsletters are gonna go to less than half of what, we're selling ads for, we need to revisit whether we're gonna partner with the township for selling these ads in the future, and do we rebate people who've already paid their ad fees? Because we've got 2 half-page ads, which is like $750, and then we've got 5 business card ads at $275 each. And those were sold based on, the readership on the township in addition to the village.
My recommendation would be yes and yes. Rebate your long-term customers for the newsletter and discontinue the agreement with the township.
So I don't know if the newer board members are familiar with the way we did it. We sold these ads based on the price. Everybody was told that, these ads would go to the township and village residents. And then we split the revenue from these ads with the township. We kept 60%, they kept 40%. We'd send them a check for 40%. And that was to pay for the publishing of the newsletter.
And our advertisers got 2 shots at village residents and 1 shot at the other local.
Yeah.
Are they not just doing the fall?
They said they didn't have anything for the fall, so they weren't gonna do it. I don't know in the future, what they're gonna do. But it kind of puts us in a trick bag that we're selling ads based on one thing with a higher price. We've already collected the fees.
Are we looking to eliminate the entire township then? Or if we're gonna restructure that, or?
If we restructured it, we would probably lower our fee for the ads and keep all the money that we collect for it. But I don't think we can charge $275 for a business card ad to just send it to our township residents.
Or village
I mean,
residents.
village residents, I'm sorry. Because I don't think that's real equitable.
We have had some difficulty selling ads for some of these seasonal newsletters. We cut that rate in half. We would be able to, I think, sell the ads we need to fund our newsletter.
Well,
How
we
many
have,
residents are in the township? Around 7,000, 7,600, something like that.
yeah, I think so.
And there's 4,700 in the village. So we have more than half in town.
So if we were cutting a check to the township for 40% of what we collected, my recommendation would be to refund the people advertising 40% of what the ad space cost. And let's keep it in town. I've always been one of those. Couple of years, you were waiting on different stuff from them. There's no need for us to have to do it together. I think it's a great communication tool for our village residents. And if the township doesn't see the value in it for the township residents or whatever, that's on them. I would think it's important that we carry it and continue it. And like I said, if we were giving them 40% of the ad revenue anyway, give it back to the people buying the ads and run with it.
And I think it may be easier for us to sell it to our local businesses too, because we are having trouble selling the ads to our local in-town businesses, that we had to open it up to area contractors. So we sent it to our contractors list, and then we're getting contractors from the area, not necessarily just Beecher. Once we can't sell enough of just the local businesses, we wouldn't have to open it up to contractors,
So you're gonna get 40% reduce.
Yeah, if we get a
Price you
lower
make
rate,
more.
we might sell more in town. I can't say for sure, but that's just a possibility. Because we've had to reach out further just to get the ad sold.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think it's a valuable service for the village that's worth continuing. And if we need to, lower that ad price based on a lower ad reach, that seems equitable.
Yeah, and if the township decides they want to do it their own way, they can either pay for their own with no ads, or they can solicit their own ads, because, I mean, they got 40% of the ad fees, but they never actually did any work to solicit for the ads.
Plus, I think
Before you
keeping
come
it,
out,
yeah. Keeping it going is gonna help with any of those new ideas we got floating around with concerts and stuff, so.
All right?
Excellent. Thank you, is that good? For your tonight then?
Yep.
Okay.
All good.
Final one here, update on the evening of music in the park, we'll set for Saturday, October 9th, from 6 to 9:30 p.m. We're looking pretty good here, the band is booked, we have the Lion providing food, they will be selling burgers, hot dogs, chips, pop, and water. Sit and Bull will be providing, alcoholic beverages for sale. We will have bean bags out for some recreational. The bleachers are out for seating. People are welcome and encouraged to bring their lawn chairs if they would like. It's a family-friendly event, so bring your kids and let them listen to a nice evening of music. Looking to kind of keep it simple, and hopefully we have a good turnout so we can see if it's something we could consider expanding next year.
Do we have an officer going there that night?
I'm going.
So the top officer. Okay. Trying to help you out here, chief. Come on.
EMA.
Push me a little.
EMA said, right?
Yeah, I think he said EMA's gonna be out there also.
All right.
And that concludes my report.
Okay. Any old business to come before the board? Any new business to come before the board? Okay, there's no need for executive session?
I was told that we shouldn't adjourn the meeting, we should recess the meeting.
To go
Because
into.
when we're in workshop, we're still technically in session,
All right.
so we're recessing.
So let us take a 5-minute recess before we go into strategic planning part 2.
Here, here.